Yeah. So how's the last couple of weeks been, Wulwyn?
It's been well. It's been well. Have been uh keeping my head, giving thanks and more, attempting to be more graceful and receiving more grace, right?
Oh,
Because
that's
it's so important. Hey, Paxton.
Hey, Paxton. Paxton's right there on time.
Paxton is
He's a
right there
timely
on
guy,
time. So
Paxton.
just what you were saying, hey, let me be talking while
Yeah, let's be talking while we're setting everything up. Well, and I think to that point, being grateful for, wherever we're at, right? What whatever phase, stage, place, space.
correct.
Starting to sound like a Dr. Seuss book. But we can be grateful for that, and we can have grace, and graciousness in that with others too. I think that's really been a big lesson
Yes, yes.
for the
And
past 20 months, especially.
how are you doing? How have you been the past 2 weeks since we were on?
Well, things around here have been pretty good. Things are always coming. I mean, it's like the nature of my life. It's interesting how people are like, wow, when they really when they really get to see behind the scenes. Jeff was home the other day. He had a day to kind of catch up on work. And he said at the end of the day, he's like, wow, you just don't stop, do you? Like, yeah, welcome, because he's not here during the day, right? So he doesn't
Correct.
oftentimes, get to see all that I'm doing.
Yes.
And I think that's, it is nice to be able to be, it's like, for me, it's just the way things are, but to be acknowledged for that. It's like, yes, when you're texting me last minute and asking for this, that, and the other, that's why I don't respond right away. Emergencies, yes. Other things, not right away.
I hear you. Hey, there are a whole lot of people jumping on. Welcome,
Oh, we
welcome,
have some
welcome. We truly
downtime.
appreciate you guys coming on. Please don't be shy. Tell us you here as we talk. Just chime in because we'll say what you're saying, so others can hear and you can improve our eavesdrop.
That's right. That's what it's all about. Well, I mean, that's why we decided to go live, right?
Yep.
Is to bring other people in on that conversation, because, I mean, two is great, but more than
Oh yeah.
two is even better.
Wow.
So
Mm,
yeah, so this is the time when, we're all talking about gratitude. And you mentioned that,
yeah.
starting off, and it really, we always say too, at least in this household, we really talk about gratitude throughout the entire year. But I do think there's something special, to this particular time of the year. I was just talking to, so I have a woman I go to see, I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Rebecca Sutphin. Hey, Rebecca, if you're listening.
Hi,
She is,
Rebecca.
she's amazing. She's both a trained chiropractor and acupuncturist. So she brings both modalities into her work. And it does a tremendous job. She's very intuitive too, in the way she treats. She uses kinesiology as well. So muscle testing the body gets to tell you kind of what it needs and where it
Correct.
needs to be worked on. So it's really very, body intuitive, right? You learn more about your body's signs and signals. But we were talking about this time of year, and in ancient, so acupuncture falls on ancient Chinese tradition, in Asian, the way they look at the 5 element theory and things like that. And so they clock a lot of things seasonally,
Mm,
and they have their different 5 elements that they ascribe to the different seasonal changes. But she says, this is when the time of year when we're preparing for hibernation. And so there's that part of, kind of, as we're giving thanks for the abundance of the year. And it's also in at least the calendar that we follow, it is
mhm.
literally the end of the year. It's Q4, and we're talking business and all of that.
Correct.
But what is it? We can kind of take that look back. And, what I've noticed is a lot of, and some opportunities. It actually started on our last conversation,
Hmm.
not just the wonderful things that have happened that I can be grateful for and be appreciative of, but also some of the things I've been given some opportunities to look at where things aren't working as well.
Mm,
A lot,
mm,
actually,
mm.
recently, or what I do need to, either shift or just stop doing altogether,
Cool.
because it's an energy drain, or it's just not effective, or it's because so all this feedback that I've been getting just in small ways.
Gotcha.
But that I've been so grateful for, because isn't it true that if we can take all forms of feedback,
Hmm.
we really can grow that much more exponentially?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's been,
Yes.
I mean, not that you ever plan it, but I mean, I just have been getting a lot
Of-
of feedback. And so anyway, yeah, that's been
and
something.
knowing you, I know um it's be it excellent feedback, um, be it crazy feedback, be it you know, constructive criticism, be it whatever on that spectrum of feedback. uh, I believe you are, I know you are channeling and saying, let's see which one of these is someone attempting to put on me versus which one of these is pertinent for me to improve self, and self for service, right? Because
Such an important distinction.
it's yeah, because because I know that about you, and I want us, the eavesdroppers here, to know that, you're getting these feedback, all of these things are coming at you, and we're getting it. I find when I put, and I say it, I hate this, what I'm about to say. When I put a post on LinkedIn or Facebook, right? And I put it down, I'm going about my day and I go, oh, let me see feedback. Let me find out what they're saying. Not that I am living for it, but I'm looking to see what people are thinking. And if I wonder if they got it the way I was expressing it, right? Because it's a major thing with feedback. Sometimes when we do speak it, or write it, especially in writing, when you
Yeah.
write it, people don't understand if you're smiling. They don't understand. And I'm so grateful for emojis, but I can't use emojis when you're doing business writing.
Well, you can.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you
you can do
can,
whatever you
but
want. I mean,
true,
whether people will appreciate it or not doesn't matter, right?
true,
Like,
true, so true. But I go, I'm smiling. My motive is this. We've spoken about this in the past, in past EPs, where regardless of what people think, what was your motive when you were expressing it? What was the person's motive when they were giving you that feedback? And I think your spirit tend to receive, our spirits tend to receive that base layer of what that motive was, when we let the spirit do the deciphering and
yes.
not let
Yep.
the flesh do
Yep.
the deciphering.
Yeah.
When
Well,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, come
Yes,
on,
I'm
go ahead.
agreeing. I'm very enthusiastically
Please,
agreeing.
please go ahead.
So it's so interesting you should say that, because I was a part of a conversation on a LinkedIn post yesterday to that exact point.
Mm,
And it was what we were discussing was intent and impact. And the guy who I was conversing with, I mean, it was a thread with a few people, but he and I kind of had more back and forth. And
uh-huh.
he kind of had come out really strong, based on his experiences and his perspective about, I'm tired of people blaming things on an intent. But my intent was, he says, you can always tell when someone's not quite clear because they use messaging like, well, I didn't mean that, or my intent wasn't this. He says, at what point do we stop making it about intent and make it more about impact?
Mm,
And I
mm,
said, my response was, actually, I think both are equally important. I think it is important that we know what our intent or intention
mm.
is. It can really lead us to choose the right words to, that clarity of intention is powerful.
Yeah.
But we can't, I said, for example, I can be the master of my intent or intention, but I cannot be the master of how you choose to have that impact you.
Yes.
So I am not responsible for how you choose to be impacted by that. And I think that distinction people need to remember. It's not that we just go, oh, well, because we don't take responsibility for the impact, we don't have to think about it. But if my intention was strong and I follow that course and use my language in accordance and choose my actions and in accordance and create outcomes as much as I have control to do along the lines of my intention, but you come along and have different life experiences and you take what I've put out there from a perspective that wasn't aligned to my intention, I can't take responsibility for that. That's your choice. Yeah. What I can do, however, and this is what I said, this is why communication is so critical, is because, there's a difference between me saying that and saying, my intention was this. And so if you took it the wrong way, that's your problem, right? Because what that then focuses on now, my intent is merely on my delivery. It's no longer like, once I find out that you might have taken it differently, I can shift my intent from delivering what I wanted to deliver in the way I wanted to deliver it to now building trust, rapport, and connection with you. Now it's not so much about the thing I said. Now it's about building that trust, rapport, and connection. Now my intention has shifted.
Correct.
In this engagement. And I could say something instead like, maybe I was misunderstood in what I just said. I'm very curious about what you heard. Please tell me about what you heard from what I said. Now I'm shifting that intention from just being heard to building trust, rapport, and connection, right? And said, so my impact, I can't control the impact of my words, but I can, it's like they say, we can't always control what happens, but we can control how we respond to what happens. And so I said, I think there's further distinctions to be made. It's not just intent is bad, right? Somebody saying and calling out, well, my intent wasn't that. So if that's the way you took it, that's on you. It's not that, just I think, but focusing on that piece is where maybe our communication is not going as far to build trust, rapport, and connection as it could. Right. And if that's not I saw another post later on yesterday, and there was one dude, I swear. I was just like, man, you are really not trying to connect. It was actually kind of funny. There was a post somebody put on, I don't know if you ever see The Female Lead. The Female Lead is a group that puts out, these different posts that are really kind of everything from inspirational, motivational, people's stories, that kind of thing. Well, they put out, it was going along my feed at least yesterday. It was an article, but apparently it was a fake article from 2009.
Okay. But
it was an article basically about this teacher who had apparently failed her entire class because they were talking about socialism and the kids, and she was trying to explain to them, capitalism isn't, all bad, and socialism isn't all good. And she wanted to do this exercise where, she said, okay, well, so from now on, when you all take a test, I'm not going to give you your individual grades. I'm going to average the grades and everybody will get the same grade. And of course, what happened in that first grade, some people did really well, some people did poorly, and everybody got the average grade. And the people who did really well and studied hard were angry. And the people who didn't do well were like psyched, they're like, great, my grade is better, so I don't have to work. Well, then the people who had worked were like, well, I want a free ride. So then the next test, they didn't study as much and the grades went down even more and even more and even more. And so then apparently, as the article went, she failed the whole class, to show that, unfortunately, it's not straight socialism the way you're thinking and explaining. Right. Does not motivate people to do their best for the greater good. But it wasn't true. It was made up, apparently, this guy. So people were like, okay, fine. So this guy comes in halfway through the thread and he's like, this is made up. Here's the link. It's not real. Why are we discussing things that aren't real? And people are like, okay, great. It's a fake one. But the point is, and somebody who actually had lived in a socialist society was chiming in and saying, this was my experience, even if it was a fake article. Yeah. And this guy could not let it go. He just kept coming in going, and the know-it-all language that people use where it's like, I'm better than you. And then later he starts calling people names like, stupid and all this.
I
And
was
I
about
thought,
to say.
like at some point in time, we have to recognize, I mean, with all of the changes we hear about in leadership and people wanting better for themselves, and actually not just wanting better, taking the actions to do better for themselves, making choices that are aligned with what they want, as opposed to just getting what they get.
Yeah.
We've got to understand we're living in a society and it was really beautiful to see the other people continuing to engage very graciously with him.
Yes.
I mean, they just kept that, they towed that line of, there's one guy, the guy who had come from a socialist background, like growing up in a socialist community. Actually, it was communist. And then he moved a number of times and he's like, and I lived in all regimes, in many places in my lifetime. But he kept very, very politely and very patiently, like, we all realize it's not a real article. Again, we're trying to talk about the concepts behind it, and like he's talking to a 5-year-old. And we see this in leadership, and this is why so many people have had it. These leaders who just keep trying to slam their fists down and do it harder, and make their point the old-fashioned way. I like to say the antiquated way, where if I demean you and I debunk you and I call science on you, that's going to put you in your corner, in your place. And it's like, okay, I appreciate what you're sharing. That's fine. Let's shift again. Let's shift the language and the intention. Maybe the intention was on sharing this article. Now, if it's not real, okay, it's not real. Let's shift the intention to have this dialogue about the concept.
Yes.
Right. And this guy wasn't getting it. He just wanted to keep going back.
I've come, I get to what people are saying right after this. I've come to realize, and I've come to the decision that there's this guy on social media, a good friend, every time you put something up, and not me, just other people, every time somebody he comes in there and he goes, oh, the semicolon isn't supposed to be there. But he's talking about what we're saying, the concept, but he's going down to the semicolon, and we're like, it's not about the semicolon, bro. It's about what they're saying. So I put something up the other day, and eavesdroppers, if you can find it within yourself, I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, but I tell you, I love what I did and what I've started to do. I said something. He said, well, you're digging a hole in your argument. And I go, no, I'm not. I'm just stating what I believe. Well, that's not the way. And I go, you know what? We aren't going to go in a diatribe or a back and forth, or I said something else, and I said note, I said or, which means it's not a diatribe. It's not what this other, it could be all three, or it could be one of three or two of the three. So don't get caught up on, he came back. So all I did, 2 emojis, the running man and the one that's somersaulting, right? I just put running man, somersault, running man, somersault, running man, somersault, and said, okay, right in the middle of what he was saying, and I hit it. He said, what do you mean? I said, running man, somersault, running man. Okay. What are you saying? Okay. I said, I agree with you. Anything you say in this conversation, I'm okay with it. Running man, somersault, running man, somersault. And he ran away from there. He ran away. So every time, and then we went on another friend's page, and he came and he said something. I said, oops, running man, somersault. Okay. And he was like, I don't like you all. And I said, you will like me. But so we have, oh my goodness.
I can't win with you is what that translates
to. That's it. So I'm like, I'm not trying to even go in with you on any of these semicolons. We're talking concepts here. We're talking what?
We're talking.
Idea. What's your idea? And Don't come tell me da 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 da, but don't give me a but, put an and on it, because it's my idea and yours, and we can come to a conclusion that I like that part of yours and I like that part of yours. But I tell you, somersault running man, somersault running
I'm
man.
gonna use that.
Um,
Okay.
we got meaning forage if you're still on. Woo!
Aw, is
Ah,
this sister?
good to see you. Good to see you. No, meaning forage, our
Oh, meaning forge. I thought you
meaning
said Mimi
forage.
Port.
No, 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 not her. She's not on, but meaning's on there. He has an excellent podcast on YouTube, etc. And
James.
he's our
StreamYard.
StreamYard
Yeah.
sensei.
Mentor. Yeah,
Mentor.
sensei.
Good to see you, man. Carl is on Claiborne. Some people like stuff without even reading into what is being said,
It's
or
so
even
true.
hate. They hate it or like it without understanding what it is. Meaning goes in writing, as in all things, try to be charitable. Paxton, Wulwyn, that's not always a bad thing to check what people are saying, because if they didn't get it like you meant it, it gives you the opportunity to say how you meant it. True. Paxton said, just like Traci just said, and I think you were saying, you were talking about intentions and connections, connecting with
Yeah.
people in your
Intent and
conversation,
impact.
right? But I tell you, and that's what communication is. When I engage with people, I usually, after I say, or they say something, I go, so let me get this right. Did you mean X, Y, or Z when you said that? And they go, oh, yeah, but Z wasn't right. Z was, okay, I get it now. Then I can reply. Because once we put these gates in our conversations, it will tend to keep us on the main idea instead of us going on a tributary.
Yes.
Because if we do go on a tributary now, the person goes, gosh, this knucklehead or this person is, somebody asked me a question yesterday. In the question, they had 3 parts. I answered A and B. I forgot about C. And he goes, well, you answered A and B, but the one I really wanted to you to answer was C. I was like, oh, I said, I forgot. Here's my answer to C. And he went, thank you. So putting these gates in our conversations and being gracious, we'll come back to being gracious to people and asking them, tell me, is this what you meant? Because if this is what you meant, and I'll punt this back at you after this, and in every single time where I have discomfort of what somebody has told me, where I am thinking, gosh, they did say this, and I know they did it, I gave them the opportunity to come and say, can I talk to you for a second? Sure. While we were talking the other day, or while we talked just now, you said this. Did you mean that, or did you mean something else? Because what I'm taking is there's offense to what you said, and I hope what you said wasn't meant to offend me. And then I leave a comma right there. Traci, you'll be so surprised that in the conversation, when I know they've offended, they have said something nasty, they've been nasty, they go, oh, no, I'm not gonna explain what you said, please. And then they go into a hole, and I go, go on, Traci. I just smile and say, thank you for clarifying.
You bring it back again to an intent to build trust, rapport, and connection. Because that's the thing, is when we engage, instead of running away or tearing down, it means to fight, flee, freeze, or faint, right? We fight people back. We don't like what they're saying. We fight them. That's ego, right? We flee. We go, fine, okay, whatever. And we go away, right? We freeze. We just kind of like don't respond at all, right? That could be seen as ghosting, a whole number of different things. Or we faint. Basically, we just check out. Right? We just check out. None of those are all ways to protect ourselves from something that's uncomfortable. So that's all about the me. but choosing to have, the intention of shifting to building rapport, connection and, a better understanding, that then means we can't do one of those four things.
Correct.
Right? We get to lean in. We get to
Mhm.
ask those important, crucial questions. Oh, I'm sensing this, or I'm hearing this. Is that what you were saying? Because I'm confused, or I'm actually straight out offended, or
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yes.
We're sharing where we're coming from, because the relation. I've had times where people are like, "Why are you asking this?" I said, "Because this relationship's important to me."
Ooh, Traci. Ooh, Traci, can you please go deeper? Oh my, I'm getting goosebumps.
Hmm. Because this relationship is important to me. I mean, I can't tell you how many times things come up in conversation and people say, how's the best way to say this? I mean, you talk about communication all the time.
Mm.
What are some of your tips and tricks on the best way to say this? And I'm like, well, what do you want to say? And they tell me. I'm like, say that.
Just say
All the time. People are like, but I can't just say that. Why not?
yes.
Well, people might. And I said, and so then you ask, how is this landing for you?
Yes.
I sense that you're frustrated or angry or put off or whatever. And actually the reason I'm sharing this is because this relationship is important to me. And this is kind of my perception of it. But that's why I'm asking and not just thinking it and not saying anything. I don't want to have this if I'm missing something. And I also, even if I'm not missing something, I want to have the opportunity to work this out again, because this relationship is important to me.
Wow. Wow. It, can I come in?
Please.
When you say that, it puts me in a position of the receiver, who's, so you're asking the questions, da 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 da, did you mean this? And I go, why is she asking me? But when I can process that the reason why she's asking me, the reason why we're going in, is because this relationship is important to her, and I am important to her or him, or important to this communication, this thing that we're discussing, I get more benefit.
Yeah.
I get more benefit because the person who spends their time thinking, who should I ask? Who should I ask? And then you pick up the phone and ask Traci or Wulwyn or Paxton. But then I go, Paxton, I'm not answering this phone, man. Oh, you ask me every single time. But the person has gone through uh, uh, multiple steps of saying, should I call John? Should I call Paul? Should I call Gene? No, I'll call Paxton. Paxton is my best bet. And then when we call Paxton, Paxton goes until Paxton says, oh, this relationship is important to me. The reason this guy is calling me because he has gone through all that he thought about, and I'm the most important person to answer this particular question. Oh my goodness, this relationship is important to me. That's why I'm leaning in. And you can give yourself, now what's happening here is you're seeing me go live processing this for myself
I love that.
in going into people, right? That if they look at me funny, even if they look at me strangely, that I can even verbalize this because I'm vulnerable enough. I'm safe within myself to say, you know why I am chasing you down? You know why I'm coming in? You know why? Why? Because this relationship is important, and I can bet my head the person who's on the other end will go, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Go on, sis. Go on.
Yeah, I
Oh my
love that. Well,
goodness.
I love you talking out loud, about like
Ooh.
talking it through, the processing, when we process out loud, it's really powerful, I think, for all of us, because, we don't oftentimes allow ourselves to do that. And so, when we see other people do it, it gives us the permission to do it too.
Mm.
And it is, I mean, I always tell people intention is like, what is the ultimate why? What is the ultimate intention? What's the ultimate outcome we're going for here? I mean, when I do my talk on communication, we talk about transactional versus rapport building, right?
Mhm.
And are you just trying to get information across? Are you just trying to be right? Are you just trying to, feel safe? That's what you're seeing. A lot of people are like, no, my answer's right. Well, because they made a decision based on that answer and they don't want to think they're wrong because that can make them feel unsafe. Right. So there's a lot of that going on. And people are so caught up in that they forget why we tend to want to communicate to begin with. It's to build trust, rapport, and connection. As human beings, I mean, we've been separated enough over the last 20 months. We don't need to create language that's going to separate and polarize our relationships anymore. And so these are just, some tips and tricks on, how we can communicate what we're actually feeling. And if we're not feeling that, if we're actually taking the time to engage, like, I don't know if this guy yesterday, the dude that I was talking about, I don't know if he really was trying to build rapport and connection, then why is he taking the time to show up at all? That can be an energy drain for us. It's like, if we're just trying to be right to a bunch of strangers, like, why are you even doing that?
Ooh la la.
That's kind of a waste of your time, don't you think?
I
don't know.
He's more, I think he woke up. But again, you got to understand the narcissist amongst us, the individuals who are never wrong. There's when you ask that question, there's a doctor at my friend's office, 3 floors. There are visiting physicians coming in every single day. No markings are on the parking. It only says physician parking. But this guy has chosen this particular one, that if anybody parks in it, do you know what he does?
Don't tell me he slashes their tires. No.
No, he does worse. He tows. He calls the
No.
tow truck. Because if you slash my tires, I can put my spare and go. But I'm left standing in the cold. And this
that's terrible.
I'm about to say, can we rid the world of these individuals? But we can't. We can't, because we need both in order for us to appreciate, and more so, thank you, Lord, as we are engaging with these individuals who are coming to bring the hammer, saying that they're right, as we're gracious to them, and their hearts are frozen. Something has happened. I'm sorry.
I'm not laughing. I'm thinking of the Grinch. You're like totally describing the Grinch and the story of the Grinch.
Frozen hearts, and all they need is, I know it's so hard to love
the Grinch.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's so hard to love that person who's just where the fire's on between the gas, the bucket full of gas or the bucket full of water. They take the bucket full of gas and go, I'm gonna burn this stuff out, and then just blow it up. I believe that when we love these individuals enough, and don't say you can't love them, eavesdroppers, when you can love and be gracious to these individuals and really listen to why they're doing, you would find out that there's a lack in there somewhere. There's a lack in there somewhere. Over to you, sis.
So if anybody knows the story of the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, I mean, sometimes I think this is beautiful. I think it's funny. I was saying earlier, I'm like, it sounds like I'm coming out of a Dr. Seuss book. And then all of a sudden, boom, here's a Dr. Seuss book. But if we can think about it in terms of the Grinch, because why was the Grinch Grinchy? He was the Grinch because he felt like he was an outsider. Correct. He didn't feel like he fit in. He was a loner. He felt on the, he didn't feel accepted. Right? He felt abandoned. And when we feel abandoned, we'll do all sorts of nasty things and grinchy things, right? So sometimes if I do this, and that's why I was laughing, when I'm really having a hard time, getting my mind around somebody who did something like that, I think of the Grinch. Because it's easier for me to frame it in that storyline because I know the whole story and it's a caricature and I realize that that's why that story is so meaningful to us. Children's stories can be really great tools to use when it comes to these kind of things, but it's a story that it is age old for a reason. I mean, Scrooge, basically that's where the Grinch came from, is the story of even an older story, right, of Scrooge.
Yep.
And so we can just remember, and that's why I was really touched by how people were continuing to engage with this character, even though he just
didn't give you a chance.
He was playing his role to the T. You know, he was not giving up that role, but they engaged, right? And that they didn't turn away. Right. They didn't abandon him, even though he was feeling abandoned. And that's where he's ultimately coming from, is this place of abandonment. They didn't abandon him or try to shut him down in the conversation. He kept trying to shut them down, but they would not in turn shut him down. It was just really beautiful. But I did want to mention one thing, because it kind of came out of the blue for me. I think it was Friday morning. And I thought, I'm going to wait and post this on Monday morning. But it finally occurred to me. So when I'm going to tell a little story about when I was pregnant with my daughter, if I may.
Go, please. It's yours.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was probably about 8 months pregnant. So I was very pregnant. I went in to see I was seeing a nutritionist at the time during my pregnancy. And I went in and I was waiting in the waiting room for her. And out comes this childlike sprite of a woman. She must have been in her 30s or so. Her name was Kelly. I'll never forget her. And I'd never seen her before, but she'd come out of one of the practitioner rooms. So I'm like, okay, this is wild. I've been coming here for, I don't know how long. I've never seen this woman before. So she's bopping by and she stops. She's passing me. I'm sitting down in this chair, stops, swings around and faces me, comes over, kneels down, puts her hands on my belly and closes her eyes. And I'm standing there like, if there's anybody else in the room, it must have looked hysterical. So I don't know how long she was like that, maybe a minute or so. Wow. It felt like forever. Yeah. I'm just like, but I didn't feel that I didn't feel like, oh God, I'm not safe. Correct. Or whatever.
Good.
So suddenly her eyes pop open. She goes across and sits in the chair across from me, plops down and is like, hi, I'm Kelly. You want to know what your baby was telling me? Sure. I mean, we're here. Might as well do this thing. Yes. I swear it was one of the most enlightening experiences I had had. And I mean, I don't know, maybe my life. Yeah. She just started rambling all this stuff out that I had been, you know, when you carry things inside of you, you never mention it to anyone else. It's just your own inner thoughts. Well, I had these ramblings my entire pregnancy. And just thinking about everything from what is my baby going to look like to I wonder what she's going to grow up to be, all these different things. But these musings, she starts saying all these things. Now, I had not said any of these things out loud to anybody. And I'm kind of like a little bit of freaking out internally. And she's like, oh yeah, your baby can hear all your thoughts. And she's like, but let me tell you, so your baby and you and your mother are tied in soul relationship, and your baby has been waiting a long time to come in to complete the threesome.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, okay. And she says, yeah. And your mom's favorite flower is a daisy. Yours is a sunflower. Your daughter loves both. I'm like, okay, this woman's like blowing my mind. But she says, you have important work to do. So I've always thought about that, right? That was the key piece I wanted to bring up in that story. You have important work to do. Together, like there's a lineage thing between the three of you at all this through line in what each of you came as a purpose in your lives.
Correct.
So fast forward, I get this. It came through actually right out of bed. I woke up Friday morning and boom. My mom growing up, so she grew up in Colorado on all this, tons of land. Her family, they owned tons and tons of land in Colorado.
Do you know, Tracy, do you know when I read that thing, today I wanted to bring that up. Now you got goosebumps. Go ahead, sis. Go.
Yay. We're on the same. Yeah. And so I'm writing about my mom, and it really came up more as a kind of a through line with my mom, and like, wow, my mom has taught me all these things. Again, gratitude, like I think was on my heart, and my mother, especially because my mother is just an incredible human being. And so I started to think about what she had done with these horses. So for all of you who don't know, and I'll post the link to the LinkedIn. For those of you who are on LinkedIn, you can actually read the post. I'll post it in the chat. But she grew up on this land, and she had a tough upbringing. Her uncles were very profitable and well-respected ranchers. Her father, unfortunately, was the younger brother and kind of a bit of a rebel. And so her own upbringing was very hard. And so she would kind of escape to the horses. The horses were her escape. And so her uncles were these ranchers who would get, go and capture the wild horses that would run across their property and break them. Unfortunately, I hate that term, but break their spirit, really, in order to sell them for profit. Well, there were some wild Mustangs, especially, they could not break. And those they gave to my mother because she was the horse whisperer. And if any of you saw the, Robert Redford movie, The Horse Whisperer, years ago, you'll know what kind of person that is. She had this way about her, and she could communicate with the horses, and the horses loved her. Some of the stories she would tell about these wild Mustangs that would blow, you come upon them and they were like a rabid dog with you, but as soon as my mom showed up, they'd follow her around like a puppy dog. I mean, it was incredible. But what came through when I was thinking about her and the language just started coming, where what she was doing with these horses, it wasn't just communicating, it was showing them the way that they could stay free. They didn't have to give up their freedom to be in the land, to be in the world of man, right? They could retain that. And that was their value. Their greatest value was in staying uniquely independent while at the same time cooperating with man. And that's how she trained them, by communicating and building that trust relationship, that rapport and connection with them. And it occurred to me that that's what I do with visionaries, because visionaries are just like wild horses. I mean, I've used that analogy so many times, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's the through line. Yes. And it's funny because I was talking to my daughter, and my daughter, since she was younger, has always had a heart for those who don't feel they have a voice. So horses, I mean, my mom does the same thing with babies and plants and anything living, really. Anything that doesn't have a voice of its own, my mother kind of shows up as an advocate. I've done that for visionaries, and I have a feeling my daughter's going to do that in the social justice field. Because she's always seen those kind of disenfranchised, and she lets them know they matter. And like, since she was little, I mean, she would go find people 10 years older than her and drag them back. We'd be at the farmer's market, and I'm Mom, meet my new friend. It's like a 45-year-old man. Wow. I'm like, honey, we got to learn in stranger danger. But I mean, it's this beautiful thing that I realized. And it took me back to that story. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not trying to place upon my daughter, what her purpose is, but it really is a beautiful thing to consider, because, they say when you look at the universe and the stars and everything, it both creates great awe and makes you feel this big. And it's that, I think the difference between humility and hubris is we know it all, we are it all, right? Humility is we realize we're part of a greater whole. And that was a really big piece for me, to know where I fit. I mean, not that I think we're all seeking that to some extent. It's not like I was sitting there pondering like, oh, I don't matter, I don't fit. But to be able to see that, again, I keep using it, but that through line. It's pretty cool.
Traci, so Jeff asked a question, and we'll come to that question, Jeff. Is relationship with ourselves not enough love? Why do we appear to need others' love? We'll come to that, Jeff, but there's a there's a stream flowing right now on this show, right? It's and that it's peaceful. And I'm telling you, and to others who are, watching, let us know if you feel that, that peace, that
Mhm.
congruence to purpose. And when I say congruence to purpose is you yourselves, as Tracy was speaking this just now, when we hear stories, when you say allow me to tell the story, oh, I love stories. Because storylines really you can I had put it up there also. Storylines. So you got two of Tracy links to the story. So I sorry I didn't tell you, Tracy.
That's okay. Like popping it in there.
So the congruence of peace, where you were talking about this and and walking in your purpose was mirroring what I'm feeling in this moment of me walking in my purpose. And I pray that you, if you can, if if you can, and when you can, spend some time with yourself. And Jeff is saying as though it's coming to your question, right? Spend
Mhm.
some time with yourself. Spend some time with yourself. Spend a lot of time with yourself and with God, for me, with whomever your higher being is. Spend some time with yourself, and you will uncover certain things about you, and you will start to remember, because you were placed on this earth for a reason. People who walked by you gave you the information already, but you overlooked it. So Tracy, when you were talking about the woman coming in and touching your belly, there certain things are so intrusive, but certain things are so spiritually intrusive that you don't go back and go, why are you touching me? Your spirit knows, and you said it, you said, I was at peace. Your spirit knows, and boom, you've gotten this information about what it is that you hear. So you walk in this earth, there are people on here who see. There are prophets. They pass you by and they go, hey, you're gonna
And
do
they come in
this.
all
You're gonna
shapes and
they come,
sizes. That's the thing.
they come drunk, they come homeless, they come they come with aristocracy, they come with they come, but most of the time it's the thing that would make you kind of upset, the thing that will move you off your course, your beaten path, and go. It will be something that you really you have to go outside the box. You have to receive it outside the
Outside the
box.
box. That's it.
You
That's the
have to
key.
receive it outside the box, because they're there giving you the information. But because this person is that color, or because this woman is a perky, jerky woman, like, oh, she's too, I can't stand her. She needs to go. And she touches you, don't touch me. There you go. The gift, it's there outside the box. In this peaceful moment that we're having, may you truly find time to spend with yourselves, to find your true purpose. Because when you do find your true purpose, oh my goodness, the rest of the things that are coming towards you in terms of telling you what you're supposed to be, because the world will give you that information, you would know exactly where to go, how to go, when to go, because you are walking your divine purpose.
That is so beautiful. But, people are telling us that all the time anyway. Ever since we came out of the womb, people have been trying to tell us who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to be successful and how we need to look at ourselves and what hoops to jump through and what lines to get into. We've been told our whole lives, but what I'm hearing you say, which I think is so powerful, is there's another way. And I do believe that people are awakening and doing that. This is why we see people leaving their jobs and leaving, the places that they've been living, because they just want something different. I mean, people are seeking exactly what you're talking about. Who am I? What do I want from this life? What do I want to experience? Is this it? And
Mhm.
if not, what is?
I
You
know.
know, and we do start by spending that quiet time, you know, and trusting. Like for me, I've always trusted my instincts, always, because sometimes things have approached me and they look friendly and I'm like, oh, this not
This
okay.
isn't it. Yeah.
This is not okay, and I need to get out now.
Mm.
um and so that's where some people were like, oh my god, how'd you know she wasn't like, didn't have bad energy or whatever? I was like, because I could feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could totally feel it. And so, you know, but how do we develop those things in ourselves? It takes that time of trusting and having that inner dialogue, and that building the relationship with ourselves. We
Yes.
spend so much time building relationship with other people, or trying to convince people that they should build a relationship with us, buy my service or my product, or like me, you know, on Instagram, or follow me, you know, whatever. It's like,
Mhm.
no, that's not how we get where we really want to be, which is in these divine partnerships and relationships in life, the ones that really are true. All
Yes.
of the fake, you know, stuff, that's where a lot of people are also waking up and realizing, do I really have friends, or do I just have a lot of followers?
Mm.
You know, and I think
Mm.
that that's that, but either way, people are waking up at their various levels and realizing these things. And so I think, to Jeff's question, we
Yes.
did hit on it, didn't we? We
His
always have
relationship
a way.
with ourselves, not enough love. Why do we appear to need others' love? Yeah, we sure did. We
It
sure
all
did.
comes around, right? And it does with our intention. Back to what we started this conversation, well, much of it with, is that divinely orchestrated intention. And when we focus on it, I mean, our intention, you brought it up last time, we are going to you know, address Jeff's question from last time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we are at the end of the hour, and we have addressed it, and we've had an open dialogue of real talk that's unscripted and in
Mm-hmm.
the moment and not rehearsed.
Yeah,
And we made ourselves get to this place through just intending that we would.
correct.
Right. So
Correct.
when people say,
Yeah.
how can you say I shouldn't focus on fixing this? How is it going to get fixed? By doing the inner work. Because when we do, and we set the alignment straight within us, we have the choice of action that will lead to that solution. We don't have to, I mean, it's like when we address the symptom instead of the cause.
Mm. Mm.
Right? When
Yeah.
we're just constantly putting out the fire, we're not really getting to the reason why the fires keep starting.
Mm.
Right. And so we want to fix it, but I'm like, but if you're still part of, totally unbeknownst to you, part of creating the solution you have to fix. Do you know how many times I've seen people in dynamics where they don't even know they do it? They have what I call heroes complex. And so they literally put themselves in a position where they create a problem so they can fix it, so they can go and save the day. They themselves
Mm.
create the problem so that they
Mm-hmm.
can come in and fix
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm.
And they don't know they're doing it. It's not a conscious thing where I'm going to create drama and cause a problem so then I can turn around and be the savior.
Wow. Wow.
But, you know, so all these things are so important. And until we get right with this relationship and the dynamics within ourselves, and understanding, awakening to where we're doing these things, back to the point of feedback, and seeing how feedback can align, because sometimes people's feedback doesn't, to your point earlier.
Correct.
Right. I just had somebody share with me some feedback where it made me realize what I was actually doing that was good.
Mm.
They had been telling them the story that it was bad, and I had kind of taken that line to, like, oh, I know I keep doing this. But then when they finally were like, no, I actually realized that I was projecting on you,
Mm.
I was also able to see that what I had been doing was good.
Yeah.
Right. Even though I was questioning it.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so it doesn't always mean we have to change things. Sometimes we see things, we're like, wow, I didn't even realize that I do that naturally. And that's a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You know, I heard when we were speaking about spending time with ourselves. I know experiences are so important to give us information to move forward, but I just think we come fully loaded when we drop when we drop on this planet. We come fully loaded, and it's our job to get the cheat codes of this thing called life, to
Mm,
to turn that puzzle, that piece that's hidden, and bring it out and start projecting the solutions that each of us, of who we are.
Mm.
And I will segue here, with the last 5 minutes, to just throw, I think, we'll do it, but I'll throw it to you. What are you grateful? What are you thankful for, on this eve of Thanksgiving?
Mm. Well, I appreciate what I was just listening. And just kind of, I like your perspective of fully loaded. That's what I was contemplating as
I
you were
know,
talking.
I
I'm like,
know,
wow, I really
I know.
love that because I do believe in the innate value being preloaded. And that is the greatest value we have in the world. And we're
Yeah.
most challenged in our greatest gifts. And so sometimes it does take us a time to recognize what we're fully loaded with
And,
and apply it.
and Traci, diamonds aren't on I-40. You have to dig.
Yeah, you gotta mine them out.
You have to mine it.
And you got to also know what you're looking for so that you can know it's a diamond, because it's going to take a lot of shining up to actually look the way you think it, we're used to having it look. But what I'm grateful for, and this, please forgive me, any of you, if you think this sounds completely self-serving, but I'm really grateful for my relationship with myself.
Mm.
I've really dug deep, throughout my life. I'm actually very proud of myself for as much as I, have been through, have been gracious and graceful with, the way I am with people, my ability to just forgive at the drop. Sometimes I have to actually process. I have to remind myself I can't just forgive without processing through what I need to process through to allow that forgiveness to take. But I'm just this naturally heart-based person. I really legitimately care. And I realized too that I've always come from that space, and I really like who I am, right? So this relationship that I'm building with myself is really, because I know from that space, it means I can show up best in all my other relationships. So that's what I'm really grateful for. What about you?
I'm grateful for all the afflictions. Every single affliction. I'm grateful for going through the war in Liberia. I'm grateful for being born in Africa. I'm grateful, and I think it falls down to, I'm thankful for who I am, right? I'm grateful for the lies people told me. I'm grateful for the cussing and the cursing of people who didn't understand who I was or who I am, and coming around made them feel that I was proud. But it wasn't pride. It was just, I'm taking myself somewhere. I know who I am, so I can't indulge in that stuff you're doing. No, I can't. So I'm grateful for that. But then I'm so grateful that God gave me this mind that I can stay centered even in the midst when people are attempting to push to the edges. So you talked about, and you talked about you forgive on the fly, right? Oh, that's such a graceful thing. Such a graceful thing. And I'm grateful for, that my wife, who stands by this crazy person, because I think quirky, crazy, humorous, serious, and for her to she doesn't know when either of those, would be coming out, and for her to be on the receiving end, and she's a private person, quiet, private, funny, but just grateful for family.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm thankful.
I love it. Well, what I hear is those who have the capacity to love you as you are.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really what we're talking about. When we love ourselves as who we are, we have the capacity to love others as who they are. Sometimes it's easier. It's not like we don't have that, because I know people who have the capacity to love others and they have a hard time loving themselves. But to truly love, to be at that point where we're not conceptualizing our emotions, right? We're not intellectualizing them. We're actually really feeling them. We get that from starting with having that with ourselves.
Yeah.
So
And
I love that.
your boy Jeff is killing me again. He's gonna make me cry, but this time it's not laughter, it's tears. And I'll end with this. He goes, so proud of you, Traci. I know what you have done to be a better human being. You're so committed to making you a better version than you were yesterday. And then he doesn't leave me out. Thank you, Jeff.
You
He
too,
goes,
Wulwyn.
you're amazing, Wulwyn. I'm grateful for your wisdom, experience, and love you put out into the world. It touches me at a deep level. Thanks to you both. Hey, thank you, Jeff.
That's my husband, folks. You should
Don't
see the cards he gives during holidays. I'm just like, oh, give me a minute. Hold
don't
on,
make
I'll be with you. I'll be
don't
back.
don't make a black man blush, man. Come on.
Yeah.
But thank you, Jeff. Thanks to Paxton. Thanks to every single person who's been on today in the past. I think this is EP 34, I believe. 34 of these this year we've done. Let me make sure. No, 24. We have to do 26 to make it 52 because we do every 2 weeks. But we truly love you guys.
Do we want to tell them we won't be coming in next time? The 8th would be our next normal time, but we're going to be doing the
Correct.
9th
Correct.
at 11 a.m. Is that correct?
Thursday. Yes. Let me verify that. Thank you so much for remembering because I already have it. Oops, my mic. Stay.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just listening in, and we're really appreciative of the regulars, who drop by. Hopefully, well, you can always see us on the replay, but we love having you on. But I have a job that I need to do that day. So the 9th at 11, from 11 to 12, right here, same place.
9 from 11 to 12. You're right.
Awesome.
All right, y'all.
Well,
Love
happy
you guys.
Thanksgiving to
And
everybody who celebrates it, and I'm grateful for all of you.
thank you, Traci. Hey,
Thank you, Wulwyn.
love you guys.